Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. We're going to get started. We're so glad you could join us for today's webinar on financial coaching insights. We have a great program planned for you for the next hour and a half. We've got some great speakers. So we hope that you're joining us in a comfortable chair and that you've got maybe some friendly folks at work to listen in with. We have a question box at the right side of your screen there in GoToWebinar. So if you have any questions, please type them in at any time, and we're going to make some time at the end of the presentation to do a Q&A. If you're registered, that means you're listening in now. If you're registered, we will also be sending you a copy of the slides from today's webinar, as well as a link to the recording within a few days. So if anyone you know would like to still read or listen, they'll be able to do that. And finally, we're going to be live tweeting the webinar. We will be using the hashtag #ProsperWebinar. We ourselves are at ProsperCan, so please follow along. If at any time we experience a technical difficulty with ourselves or a presenter, we will do our best to continue the presentation. We have 3 panelists today joining us from different parts of Canada, and of course everyone's audio connections may be a little bit different, so we expect to have a smooth ride today, but if there's any technical difficulties, do please bear with us. So my name is Glenna Harris, and I am the Manager of Learning and Training here at Prosper Canada. Prosper Canada works with partners in all sectors to ensure that Canadians have access to financial programs, products, services, and advice, regardless of their income level, that they need to build their financial well-being. We envision a future in which all Canadians have access to free, high-quality, and unbiased financial education, information, coaching or counseling when they need it. And so we see financial coaching and counseling programs as an important part of this vision. Prosper Canada's programming in financial literacy and financial coaching is part of the work of the Canadian Centre for Financial Literacy, co-founded and supported by TD Bank Group. So today's presentation is a full one. We have 3 great speakers coming up for you, and they will each be telling us a little bit about their financial coaching and counseling programs that they are involved with. You'll see as we go through today's presentation that each of these speakers have very unique programs and some similar things, some different things. We have two folks talking about staffed coaching and counseling programs, and another speaking about a volunteer program. So while there may be differences in these programs, certainly the focus is always on the client and how to improve their financial well-being. We will again also conclude with a brief Q&A period, so we hope you'll send us our questions as you think of them. So we're excited to introduce our panel to you today. Sheri Fata from Thunder Bay Counselling. She is the Manager of Education and Support Services. Sheri has been in that role for 6 years, and in her role she oversees a variety of programs working with vulnerable populations. Prior to her work with Thunder Bay Counselling, Sheri worked in the financial sector for over 20 years, and she was able to enhance financial knowledge and well-being of her clients and community. Her education and experience have uniquely positioned her to actively support the services offered by Thunder Bay Counselling. So welcome, Sheri. Danny Carestia served as a volunteer coach with the MPower Money Coaching program in 2015 to 2016. Professionally, he has been a certified financial planner since 1999. He launched CNC Planning in 2004, a partnership which provided financial planning, insurance, and investments. Danny's focus has always been on helping families and small business owners to develop and implement financial plans to capitalize on all of their opportunities and enable them to reach their goals and live their lives. His boutique financial services firm, Generations Family Wealth, is geared towards a family values approach to investments. Welcome, Danny. And last but not least, Jose Guerrero is a clinical counselor and financial mentor for Family Services Greater Vancouver, or FSGV. He uses experiential approaches along with psychological and financial assessment tools that empower people to understand and change their financial behavior and thus reach improved financial health. Jose blends his CPA and financial background with his MA in clinical psychology to promote financial awareness and self-reliance for individuals, groups, and couples. So welcome, panel. We are excited to have all of you with us today. So before we get into our speakers, we wanted to give a brief introduction to financial coaching and what we mean by that. Here we're talking about financial coaching as an evidence-based financial empowerment intervention that helps people living on low incomes to adopt new financial attitudes and behaviors that leads to improved financial well-being over time. Coaches work with clients to identify challenges and help them to problem solve, set goals, and take actions. Although coaching and counseling programs may take different approaches, ultimately these programs are all aimed at helping clients improve their financial lives through one-on-one support. Coaching works particularly well for people who are motivated to take action to improve their financial situation, but may have difficulty formulating and sticking to a plan on their own. And these challenges may arise for a number of reasons happening in their lives. We also recognize that we often refer to financial coaching, and that's in the title of our webinar today, but this definition would also for many fit the definition of financial counseling. We consider financial coaching and counseling forms of one-on-one support, both of which draw on a lot of similar techniques, and while they're not identical, they are both aimed at applying coaching techniques and improving financial well-being. There are many benefits to financial coaching, as our speakers will share with us today, not the least of which is an improved sense of financial confidence, improved independence, and new application of skills. Many financial coaching clients report an improved ability to do things like set a budget and stick with it. They may improve their credit score, and they may be able to increase their savings and reduce their expenses or debts. So we're excited to hear some examples of these today. Before we get started, we have a couple of quick polls to ask you, our audience. We know many of you out there may be engaged with financial coaching or counseling yourselves, so we'd like to ask you, tell us, does your organization or agency also offer financial coaching or counseling? Yes, you do. No, you don't. No, you don't yet, but you would like to start. So we'll give you another 30 seconds or so to answer this one, and then we'll see our results. All right, I'll give you about 10 more seconds. And let's close it, and let's see our results. It looks like about 2/3 of you are currently offering financial coaching or counseling in-house. So that's really great to hear. And looks like among those of you who are not currently offering, about half of you would like to start doing so. So we're glad you're listening in today. We have one more poll to ask of you. For those of you who are currently offering financial coaching or counseling, if you could tell us a little bit about how you do it. Do you work with staff in-house? Do you work with staff in a partnering agency? Do you work with volunteers, or do you work with a combination of staff and volunteers? So again, we'll give you about another 30 seconds to answer this one. All right, another 10 seconds. And we're going to close that one. So it looks like the majority of you who do offer coaching or counseling programs, you work with staff in-house or staff with a partnering agency as a close second. And a small number of you are working with volunteers or a combination of staff and volunteers. So thank you for telling us more about your services and what you do in the field. I think this will also be some helpful background information for our panelists to keep in mind as they tell us more about their programs. So again, thank you for participating in those polls. We really appreciate it. So we're going to head back to our panelists today. We have up first Sheri Fata from Thunder Bay Counselling. Thunder Bay Counselling is one of Prosper Canada's 5 program partners in the Ontario Financial Empowerment Champions project, which is funded by the Ontario Ministry of Community and Social Services. So I'm happy to turn things over to Sheri.
Hi, and thanks so much. Thanks, Glenna, for inviting me to be involved today. We can head straight into the next slide from here. That'd be great. So I wanted to start. Can you hear me, by the way? I wanted to start by highlighting our vision and our mission, as these frame all of our services across the agency. Every day, staff in our organization work to enhance the quality of life of the people we serve, and that's really based on their individual definitions of what their quality of life is and what they want for it. We're responding to the needs of our clients and of the community we serve, and we view financial counseling really as an integral service involved in that and involved in enhancing people's mental health. So I wanted to kind of start there. A little bit about the organization itself. We're a multi-service agency. So we work with individuals seeking support for addiction and mental health. We work with individuals who have been victims of abuse and sexual abuse. We work with children, youth, and families who are involved with the child protection system. So we're kind of uniquely positioned to integrate financial counseling services into other social services and social service systems based on the networks we're actively involved in. Many of the people we work with are vulnerable and often marginalized. So every day in our work, we're continuously endeavoring to break down barriers and help individuals to access our much needed services. All of our programs across our agency are strength-based and client-centered. So we recognize the importance of helping people understand and build on their strengths and make positive life changes that are aligned with their own values. And we appreciate that many of the clients we serve benefit from our ability to collaborate across our agency to help them achieve their goals. Our agency has been a part of our community for over 50 years now. And from our early years, we worked with individuals and couples and families for whom financial challenges created stress and created relationship challenges. So in 1972, in response to the community need, we established credit counseling. As the name implies, the services were really to support people who were struggling with debt, help them to understand credit and credit products. But we're also very aware in doing that the broader ability of an individual to manage their money on a day-to-day basis was critical and would impact their ability to save, their use of credit, their ability to repay debt. Over time, we continued to enhance our capacity to support client needs, broadening our knowledge across a wide array of financial services, becoming financial literacy experts. In our community, members came to identify us as impartial providers of information, tools, and resources to support their knowledge. They came because we weren't selling them anything. We were just giving them the information they wanted. They also came because we were trusted and we would listen to them. Often had clients saying to us afterwards, I just really needed to be able to talk to somebody about this. And everybody else wanted to give us advice and sell us something. Currently, our program has a combination of full-time and part-time financial counselors, and we have a total of 2.2 full-time equivalent staff, which sounds really funny, but it's what it adds up to. And it's really important with that small of a number that they're supported by some administration staff. All of our counseling here is actually done by staff in the program. Our financial counselors require a unique blend of extensive knowledge of personal finance and financial systems. We want them to have experience working with people from marginalized and diverse communities. We're looking for experience in adult education and coaching. We want people to have the ability to collaborate and build trusting working relationships with the clients. And we need them to understand the process of change. When we're looking for people to work in this program, we really look for those values and those abilities. And as a matter of fact, when we were recently hiring, we actually went through 2 recruitment initiatives to make sure we got the right people. Staff in the program have scheduled hours available for counseling, and we make sure that that includes access to evening hours so that clients can come in when it's convenient to them. But counselors also have the ability to adjust the times and lengths of their appointments and their own schedules as necessary to accommodate client needs. All of our counselors provide support in all of the areas that are our financial counseling program. So their work sometimes takes them outside of the office. And again, what we want to do is make sure that we establish work schedules that as much as possible allow somebody to be on site. We promote that people can access the service on a walk-in basis if they need. They may have to wait. Counselor is not always going to be available. But we know that sometimes when people are ready, that easy access is important to support them. Clients who come in and want to see a counselor who's not available are always provided with the option to book an appointment or have a counselor call them at their leisure. A few years ago, we started trying to help people to understand the impact of their financial health on other areas of their life. At that time, it came across the definition from World Health Organization, and it really felt it was applicable to the work we were trying to do. In my first few months working here, I'd actually had a media outlet ask for an interview, and they asked me, why is this service here? And my answer was that stress related to financial challenges is a real stress. It's as significant as any other stress somebody might be dealing with, and it has an impact on a person's life. Our agency provides support and counseling to help people make positive changes in their lives, including in their finances. When we look at our one-on-one financial counseling services, we often look at them as a spectrum of service. A lot of individuals contact us in person or by phone around a really pressing question, concern, or a crisis. It might include things like they've received a garnishment and don't know what to do about it. They've had a sudden severe impact on their finances and they can't pay their bills this month. They really don't know what to do, and for them, the situation is causing extreme stress. When we work with our clients, we like them to come in and go through an orientation to the service, an entry process, and base it on an assessment. But we find that individuals with this level of stress often require that we simply listen to their immediate need and their goal of the moment and provide the best resources and options we can. For us, being located inside a counseling agency also becomes very appropriate because some of these individuals need assistance beyond the financial support, and we're able to offer that crisis support as well. Most of our work in financial counseling on a one-on-one counseling basis is done through a full assessment model. In order to provide clients with as many appropriate options as possible, our service is structured around that assessment of the client's current situation. Most of them are scheduled by appointment, but individuals, again, can walk in and have that done. A lot of our one-on-one counseling is done face-to-face, but we also offer a variety of modalities, which include access to telephone counseling. We have an online counseling service, and because we're part of a health system, we actually have access to Ontario Telemedicine Network that can be used for counseling as well. So it helps to reduce barriers to accessing service, which can be client preference, but it also is geography. We're the only financial counseling organization of our nature from the Manitoba border, which is roughly 700 kilometers west of us, to a community called Wawa, which is close to 500 kilometers east of us. So we cover a vast geography. When we do intake into the program, we really want our financial counselors to do it as much as possible because it allows us to start building that relationship with the client. If a counselor is not available, we're very privileged to have a live receptionist who can still book the appointment for clients. And our screening is really basic. As long as an individual is looking for support around a financial question or concern, we're the right service. Regardless of who books the appointment, clients are advised of information to bring with them to a first appointment to help them really increase the value of the session to them. When a client attends for a first appointment, they are provided with an orientation to the service. It covers what service is going to look like, sort of the general process. It includes a consent to proceed with service. We help people to understand that there are risks and benefits of participating in counseling. And we review their rights and responsibilities. And an important part of that is helping clients to understand they have a responsibility to actively participate in setting and monitoring their goals, because the counseling is really client goal focused. Counselors engage in a dialogue that starts with, why are you here? What do you want to achieve? The assessment is really financially based, but our discussions incorporate past behaviors, past practices, the client's views of money and of their own financial futures. Counselors help people to understand the options they have based on their situation to meet their goals. And at the end, it's up to the client to choose the option that best fits with their values and what they want to achieve. Our clients and our counselors are then joint participants in determining the plan of service. Our service plans are as individual as our clients are. We really want the clients to understand their strengths, and we want them to lead the process. At the end of their involvement with the program, the ultimate goal is that clients are to be empowered to confidently manage their financial affairs in line with their goals. We want them to tell us what it is they need from us to help them get there. For us, financial counseling and financial coaching are slightly different, and I know we talk about them interchangeably quite frequently. Somewhat simplified, but we view financial counseling as the ongoing work with a counselor that really supports clients to develop strategies, obtain tools and resources to make their desired changes and reach their goals. When we talk about coaching, we talk about something a little bit less structured. We talk about a situation where clients are taking steps toward their own financial goals with the regular check-in from the financial counselors. So sort of like you might do if you had a fitness coach, you might have them check in and adjust your workout as you go. If individuals identify gaps in their knowledge or their toolkit, they can continue to access support if needed, but it's much more client-driven. And then just as we have a spectrum of counseling services, we have a spectrum of service plans. For some individuals, a single session is all they need. They've got the information, tools, and resources they need to independently navigate their financial situation. They're always aware that they can come back, contact a counselor at any point if they need additional assistance. Some clients need a little more support. They'll come to a single session, get the tools and resources they need to take their next step. But they and the counselor will establish agreed upon tasks and timelines, and the counselor will follow up with them. That check-in will delve into whether the tasks have been completed, whether the individual has the tools they need and the resources they need, and what additional support they might want to have. The counselor and the client, again, together, continue to establish the next steps, and the coaching support can continue until the individual establishes that they can proceed without any additional ongoing coaching. They always know they can come back. And finally, we have individuals who readily identify that they would like or require regularly structured counseling support. The counselor and the client work together to identify their goals, establish tasks towards achieving the goals. They'll come together for regularly scheduled sessions, review their activities and their progress towards the goals. We continue to focus on the goals all the time. And they're encouraged to set short, medium, and long-term goals. The counselor will support them until they determine that they're ready to take over and manage on their own. Who do we work with? We work with everyone. Our services are available to people of all ages and income. We get a lot of people who come looking for support with learning to budget. For example, we had a young lady access service. She felt really privileged to be employed, have a comfortable wage, frequently was helping out others, providing financial support to her friends. But she hadn't been tracking. She hadn't been looking at her spending and the money she was giving away, and all of a sudden one day found that she was really in a financial crisis. So she came in, set up a short-term budget, and addressed her immediate concerns in paying her bills. She continued counseling over time, and through that was able to develop a spending plan that allowed her to continue to help out others, because that was a significant goal for her, but also ensure that her needs were met. We support people who are coping with significant life changes. We frequently work with people who are facing job loss, health challenges, relationship changes, and other changes that have a significant impact on their financial health. Many of our clients are trying to achieve financial goals while living on a low income. We've been working with an individual who struggled with health challenges for many years and is living on a very low income. They have financial goals that are really important to them, and that included helping out a family member. The client came in, worked with the counselor, and set various goals with various timelines, and in only a few months has actually achieved the first few goals, which included saving, relative to their income, a substantial amount of money to give to that family member. And of course, with a long history in credit counseling, we continue to work with people who are dealing with collection calls and debt challenges. We help them understand what their debt repayment options are within the scope of their budget and their current situation. And at times, their income doesn't support repaying debt. So when that happens, we're here. We're a resource to help them understand that they need to first pay for food and shelter and other necessities, and we help them to communicate their situation to their creditors. For others whose income situation supports repaying debt, we'll help them establish debt repayment plans that fit within their budget and proceed with negotiations with creditors on their behalf. Many of the people we work with are just looking for someone who will give them impartial information and help them understand the vast array of financial services and how they can improve their wealth. Every day, that's whether it's their intended goal or not, we're really trying to improve the financial literacy of people we work with. And lastly, we see a lot of people who need resources outside of the work we do. We'll help them access the service we need. We believe it's really important that we're never the wrong door. We help people to find the support they need through our community connections. How do we know we make a difference? All of our clients are invited to complete an electronic pre-counseling survey when they enter into service. We give it to them on a tablet, so they have a confidential access. The survey goes directly online. Then when they complete service, they're invited to complete a post-counseling survey. Our results show that clients experience an 89% improvement in their stress levels between the pre- and post-counseling surveys. 92% of the clients also indicated they had a much greater awareness of the impact of their finances on their day-to-day lives. Clients regularly tell us that they appreciate the options, the tools, the information, the resources we provide them, and most importantly, the one-on-one support they get to achieve their goals. We recently had a counseling client who said to his counselor, "This is the most I have ever been able to achieve." And we encourage our clients to write testimonials, anonymously if they prefer. We had an individual who, upon completion of their service, wrote a lengthy note about her involvement with the program. In her opening, she stated, "At Thunder Bay Counselling, everyone treated me with kindness, patience, understanding, and without judgment." And at the end, she closed it with, "I feel like I have my life back. You changed it for the better, and I will be forever grateful." We help people make positive changes in their lives. We publish a newsletter quarterly based on topics that are relevant to our community and the people we serve. We talk to our intake people all the time around the types of calls they're getting, and from there build the information we put out. In late 2016, we actually published a newsletter on physical, emotional, and financial well-being. So I thought others might be interested in seeing it, so I've just provided that link that'll go directly to our website. So thanks to Prosper Canada for having me, and thanks to everybody for listening.
Thank you so much, Sheri. You took us through a wonderful amount of detail about your program in just a few minutes. And I know we're going to have time for questions at the end, but I wanted to just ask you quickly about your online counseling that you do, because I know that's still relatively new and unique for a lot of folks in Canada, but you, as you say, you're covering a wide geography. How long have you had the online option going?
Well, the organization itself was involved in a partnership a few years ago, setting up online counseling through our clinical services program. The technology that we were using at that point became somewhat antiquated. And so within the past, I want to say year, it's a little less than that, but within the past year, we actually launched a new online tool, and it's really an email service that's encrypted with some clean parameters around how it's used. But within the past year, it's opened up to the entire agency to be able to use with clients and email back and forth. It's confidential, it's secure, and it just creates another avenue, not just because of geography. It certainly helps with geography, but there are lots of barriers to actually getting to an organization for service. Thunder Bay is not that easy to navigate, and it's pretty cold in the winter.
Right, so yeah, that's true.
A lot of barriers that way.
Yeah, you're right. Even when space isn't an issue, weather and temperature could really be a challenge. I'm sure there's parts of Canada who will strongly identify with that challenge. Thank you so much, Sheri. We're hoping to get back to some more questions. The emails for all of our panelists here are available there in our introduction slide, but we'll make sure to have those available to everyone at the end in case you're interested in finding out more about any of these programs. So thank you so much, Sheri. We're delighted to have our second panelist as well. Danny Carestia. He is one of the volunteer coaches who participated in the MPower Money Coaching program. This is a collaboration that was developed between Prosper Canada and Toronto Employment Social Services and a number of leading industry investment associations, which finished up 2015-2016. So Danny is here to tell us a little bit more about himself and the volunteer coaching program that he was a part of. So welcome, Danny. We'll let you take it away.
Thank you very much, and it's good to be here. I guess I'll come at this from a volunteer perspective in terms of how volunteers have been integrated into this program, which I think is fabulous. Sheri, that was a great presentation, and I think a lot of what your organization does is extremely positive and I'm sure helps a lot of people. So just quickly, I'll quickly go through a bit about myself, and really the key here is one of the things that intrigued me about this program. I actually worked with Toronto Social Services for 10 years back in the 90s, and so it gave me a unique perspective on that side. Of course, from there I jumped into I became a certified financial planner in '99 and started building my practice. And so you have built basically a practice over the last 7 years or so. I did, even after I left social services, volunteer for a program called Coping in Tough Times, which a lot like what our current programs are, is helping low-income earners with again, budgeting or credit counseling, not counseling, but at least dealing with creditors, things like that. So it was a really eye-opening and experience, and something that I continue to want to try to do. Junior Achievement is a program that is in schools in the Greater Toronto area, I know for sure, that basically provides financial literacy and entrepreneurship programs for grades 5 to 12. So I've had the privilege of also volunteering with them, and of course Prosper Canada with this opportunity here. So as usual, volunteers always have a sense of giving back, and in areas that they're passionate about. And I really am passionate about financial literacy, and I found that the volunteers that were in this program were also very passionate about that, but not just the financial literacy part, but also the ability to provide professional services to clients that we would normally not service, right? And clients who probably wouldn't seek out our services. So this gave us an opportunity to do that. I came from a working class family and saw my parents struggle but at the same time do well and put 2 kids through university. So I have a feeling that everybody can do this, right? You have opportunities, doing the right things to be able to provide a better life for your family. And I think I wanted to be able to reach out to people and let them know that this is possible, and that things can get better, and you just got to kind of do the right things and have the right tools. So that was one of the reasons why I volunteered, and of course thanks to Prosper Canada, I was able to be able to continue or at least volunteer in this area. So as Glenna mentioned, this program was looking at bringing together and train people in the financial services industry as volunteer coaches, and to provide support to low-income individuals and help them achieve their financial goals. Again, I think that's key because we obviously the clients that we tend to deal with, obviously a little more affluent, or at least a little bit more income. Low-income earners, I do believe, are kind of left behind a little bit, and we depend maybe on the banks and think that they might do it, and they try to do what they can. But again, this particular level of financial services, of bringing a certified financial planner and helping them with their goals, I think was key to this program. And of course, our clients came from the Toronto Employment and Social Services from the City of Toronto. So, that was, again, a key client base that Prosper Canada helped to identify. Coaches, we were screened and then trained by Prosper Canada. And I think, that was important, because it isn't that we were trained in financial services, but we were given training in terms of clients and what some of their anxieties might be, and the type of clients that we were dealing with, which were probably different from who we deal with on an everyday basis with our clients. So that training was very important, and I think again, for myself, coming from social services to begin with, I kind of already had an idea of where the clients were and some of their struggles and all that. Of course, as volunteer coaches, we were giving free, unbiased, just give me a moment here. Free, unbiased advice. And sorry, my computer just shut down. I do apologize. I'm going to take just 10 seconds.
That's all right, Danny. No worries at all.
There it goes, it's back up. It went on sleep mode for some reason, sorry. So, and of course, the information that we went through is confidential information. So we're, of course, that's very important for the clients, that we keep their confidentiality and ensure that, they can speak to us freely. We were matched with up to 3 clients, and we did this over 2 rounds. So we had a 5-month period with the first set of clients, and then we had a 5-month period with the second set of clients. I think that just helped us see where the program could be improved, and what we could do with clients over a period of time. So I think, in any program, obviously building trust is important, especially when someone's coming in as a volunteer, and in an area where we're talking about finances and budgeting and things like that, building trust is very important. Maintaining impartiality, confidentiality, and being non-judgmental. Again, people come from different backgrounds, so we have to be understanding that there are circumstances that may have led them to where they are today. But that said, how do we move you out of where we are today and into a better spot? It's important for us to set attainable financial goals, right, and be realistic about it. We talk to clients about some of the milestones, right, and then how to get there in small steps. And so we bring, again, our experience of, and look, this happens with all clients, right? They want to get to a goal, but you have to start somewhere, right? And you can't try to take a leap. Sometimes you got to take a small step and build on that. So, we try to reinforce that with clients and give them goals that are realistic and able to achieve in a fairly short period of time. The establishment of clear expectations about the coaching program was important in terms of what we could do with the clients or help them with. Again, was some, trying to look at their debt. Did they need credit counseling? A budget was important. So, things that we could clearly help with and take those steps to help achieve, some of the goals the clients wanted, which a lot of times was just to be, to be able to start saving some money, to be able to see a little bit brighter future for themselves. And so, again, we were there to establish that and help them through those to get to their goals. In terms of the participant and coach readiness, I think, the participants that were screened for this were eager to move ahead. We're eager to get this advice. This was advice that they, or help that they never really got before, right? So they were really eager to work with somebody and achieve different goals. For ourselves as coaches, I think Prosper Canada put us through a good training program that really helped us to ensure that we focus on setting realistic goals for our clients and be a bit of an ear for our clients, but also help them, kind of move forward. So in terms of my approach, and I can only talk about my approach in this case, understanding, again, the clients that, that they were low income and that we were dealing with, I was looking at, we had 5 months, and of course I'm used to dealing with clients over many, many years, right? So achieving goals over a really long period of time. So here we had, 5 months to try to achieve something. And so, some of the things that we were looking at was, really bringing to them some tools and helping them use those tools, whether it be budgeting, whether it be dealing with creditors, whether it be starting a savings program, opening a bank account in some cases, getting some taxes done, back taxes done, doing things that, and then letting them do it on their own. So teaching them, giving them the tools to do it, and then having them go out and actually do it on their own. Because for me, if they didn't, if we were doing it for them or we were constantly hand-holding them through it, what would happen after we left, right? And so I was looking more towards, after they leave this program, can they use what we've given them to continue to build success for themselves? And so that was my focus within this program, was really something that they can take away to achieve, kind of longer term success. And some of the things we had to do, of course, was bringing down some of those mental barriers. I had a client who, I can't do this, I can't, and it's like, no, you can, right? Like, but so these are the steps you take to do it. So whether it be a budget, or, in one case I had a client who, she was, after she did her budget, realized she was spending a lot of money at a McDonald's or kind of eating out a little bit more. And we discussed, what about going out and doing a proper grocery list and shopping. And within a month, of giving her that task, she came back and said, you know what, it's fabulous. I actually finished the month with some money in my pocket. My kids had lunch for the next day. What's next, right? And so we started, it kind of gave her the confidence that you can move on. Like, you got to be able to get some success, and you can do it. Everybody can, learn how to kind of do the right things, shall we say. So that, the habits that they got to get into to get out of debt, to create a proper budget, to me was very important. In terms of when we dealt with someone with debt, it's one, they did never really, a lot of them were ignoring the phone calls or the letters and stuff like that. So, it was our, what we tried to do as volunteers is give them actionable advice. So, Prosper Canada had helped us with a few credit counselors. So we were able to, link them with credit counselors and say, you have to deal with this. In cases, and as Sheri mentioned, sometimes there wasn't the money there to pay back some of the creditors. So again, actionable in that we were able to provide them with form letters and say, here's 3 different letters, right? Which one applies to you? And, how do you start dealing with some of these creditors, right? And so they were able to use those form letters, rewrite them to their own circumstance, send them out to creditors that were calling them to hopefully stop the phone calls for a period of time at least, right? And then, get themselves into a situation where in the future they could probably start rebuilding their credit and paying off some of that debt. Sheri made one extremely good point that I always felt all the time, is that, if we can relieve a certain stress, and for myself as in my profession, it's financial. If I can relieve that financial stress on people, then of course I think that other areas of their life will be easier to handle. So some of the maybe a health problem, maybe a relationship problem that is amplified because of the stress you have with finances. If we can relieve some of the financial stress, then maybe those other areas are easier to handle for the clients as well. So deal with what I can, and hopefully I find that financial stress is huge these days, and if we can relieve that, then I think a lot of other aspects of life becomes a little bit easier to manage. And of course, be empathetic. Everybody's situation is different. So there were a lot of times when, we'd have an hour and a half with a client, and, half of that time was spent listening to, some of the things that have gone on in the client's life and what led them to where they're at. So, you can't ignore that, but at the same time, you have to be able to take, be able to say to them, okay, so now's the time to move on. So how do we do that, right? And how do we maybe deal with, again, the financial side so that whatever else is happening in your life becomes a little easier to manage. As I said before, once some of the clients found out that we were actually certified financial planners and, we're doing this full time in our fields, I think there was a bit more exuberance, right? They were like, wow, I actually have a professional in front of me to help me, to talk to get some of my goals, to get some feedback on what I'm doing, to help me, to just keep me on task even at times, right? So when we send a client away to do a budget, right, 2 weeks later, I'd be giving them a call. So have you been able to do the budget yet, right? Are you starting keeping track of your expenses? And if, and all of a sudden they realize, well, wait, this, there's someone that's actually on my, kind of behind me, pushing me to do this. And so you'd find that you'd actually push them along to actually complete some of the things that they should be doing, right? And of course, you're trying to teach them those habits. So again, there was a trust and appreciation there from the clients that, we were, professionals who they wouldn't have access to otherwise. For myself, it was a kind of a sense of accomplishment, but it's hard not to get attached, and you want to do more, and you realize, we had certain parameters, so we had to stick with it, but, hopefully, we did provide some brighter future for clients, at least give them some tools to continue to move ahead. I won't get into my frustration. I'll leave that. Next slide, please.
We appreciate that, Danny. It's an important reflection, but a big one to get into sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I can go hours. So some of the results you'll see here that 52% of the clients that were with us achieved a financial goal. So whether that be opening an account, filing taxes, dealing with creditors, setting budgets, creating a savings program, those were all things that, we were able to help our clients with. Some of them hadn't even seen their credit scores or credit reports. So the fact that they were able to pull that off, and, at first they cringe, and then you start going through it and saying, okay, so this is how we're, how we deal with this. They felt more relieved, right? They were more confident in maybe taking those calls or at least moving forward on some of those objectives. So I think, the stats are showing that there is definitely a marked improvement for clients. So a few things that I found in the program that would have liked to see is maybe a longer time period to work with clients. Again, I'm used to working with clients over years, so to work for 5 months with a client, and usually you'd meet once a month and probably have another contact with them either via email or phone another part of the month, right? Of course, when we meet with them, it'd be like, okay, so what are we going to do for this month? And they go away and hope to accomplish that. And then, when you meet the next time, it's, next step. But I found that, if I know that Prosper Canada was considering going a little bit longer, that would be nice. The follow-up after a certain amount of months, in all honesty, it's been a year since I've seen my last client. I don't know how they're doing, right? And just to let you know, regulatory-wise, I can't contact them, right? If it's back through Prosper Canada as part of the volunteer program, I can. So when I go to my regulators, and I have to let them know about my outside business activity, and this is volunteering is one of them. They set certain things in place because, of course, and I think this should give the clients confidence as well. We we can't solicit them as clients, right? Which I perfectly understand and would agree with. But that also means that I can't contact them. And so it's tough to know what's going on with them. You'd really like to know if they've been able to follow through on things. And creating a next level, and really the next level being, you know, so we get a client that has been successful, and now they're maybe at the stage where they can, you know, put a little more money aside, and, you know, now need to kind of have that education point of, you know, so what are the different products out there that I can invest in, or you know, start building some wealth, and so that next level program would be nice. And then I think as a conclusion, the financial services industry really is in a unique position. I think with certified financial planners, if we can do a program like this, and that's why I loved it, where we can bring in the financial planners to come back and give back and work with clients because of the knowledge we have and what we've seen is successful for clients. And again, it doesn't have to mean, like, I've got clients who are very wealthy who still work on budgets and stuff like that. So it's, you know, there are certain things that you do that just, regardless of income levels, you need to do. And so I think being able to do that is very important. I think, you know, bringing professionals to low-income earners, I think, is also extremely important. And I think hopefully, you know, programs like this can continue on, or some of the organizations out there can do the same thing that Prosper Canada did, is bring in you know, certified financial planners into your program.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Danny. You've again given us just such a huge perspective on your role in the coaching program and what resulted from it. It was really great to hear your reflections sort of afterwards, that, you know, you not only would you do it again, but you would do it, you know, for more time, and you'd be happy to engage clients, you know, more frequently even, and over a longer period of time. So that's really amazing to hear. I was just curious, before we move on, if you had sort of at the top of your mind, if you were to give a brand new, fresh financial coach like one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
To you know, really bring some of your experiences to the table, right? And understand that regardless of income levels, people can, you know, can achieve great things, right? Or can achieve a better life, and, you know, to kind of stick with that.
That's great. Thank you so much, Danny, for sharing that with us. I'm going to introduce our next presenter. And again, we're going to have time at the end for questions. So if you've thought of any questions for Sheri or Danny along the way, please feel free to type them in at any time, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of our presentation. So our third and last but not least presenter today is Jose from Family Services of Greater Vancouver. FSGV is one of our 5 program partners across Canada in the National Financial Empowerment National Financial Empowerment Champions project. This project is funded in part by the Government of Canada's Social Development Partnerships Program. So without further ado, I'll turn things over to Jose. Welcome.
Good morning and afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. As I'm looking into my time, I am, well, not I am, but we're behind 10 minutes.
That's all right, Jose. Just do your best. We'll be happy to listen to you all the same. Yeah, we know we're a little bit behind, but that's okay.
Try to take some time here for questions. So I represent Family Services in this case, and thank you for this opportunity, Glenna. Family Services is an organization that basically focuses in supporting families. We believe that families are the most important nucleus of society, and we definitively focus in hope and bringing these families the possibility for a brighter future. Family Services has been around for over 70 years and runs more than 90 programs. Our financial coaching program is basically a 3-hour program, and we work with a variety of populations, many people in vulnerable situations, others in newcomers, others that not necessarily are in a very vulnerable situation, but are facing financial duress. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I have been working in the financial field for over 30 years, and 13 years ago I was planning to shift my career towards the counseling, the clinical counseling field. And through my work, because I continue doing both a little bit, I found that I never imagined, honestly, that I will be able to put these two backgrounds together. And to my surprise, little by little, I was finding that money management has incredible amounts of emotions related with, and it's pretty much related with the belief system and with behavioral matters that we embed in our program. So having said that, from an overall perspective, the way how we provide these services is basically doing outreach throughout our more than 100 partner organizations. And we do it also directly. We have two ways of doing intake. One is directly through 3 financial mentors that we have in the office, people who are, I'm one of those, and people who have a financial background and who are very and incredibly motivated in support people in going undergoing financial duress. We do it also. These three financial coaches are available in the office in predetermined hours, and this will be the direct way. But also, and indirectly, we do it by engaging our participants in the different groups that we deliver to go through a deeper exploration of their personal finances. So the delivery model is basically, as I mentioned before, through 3 one-on-one sessions, which are delivered through clients at a timing not only that they choose, but that we plan with them. So in the next slide, you can see how that model basically works. So it's the outreach, the literacy groups and one-on-one sessions. Now, the literacy groups we have found that provide basically financial knowledge. Whereas if you see the one-on-one sessions, in the one-on-one sessions, based on that financial knowledge that we have provided or that we explore in the first session with our clients who come directly, we add the component of helping them to explore their styles of managing money. And what that does is basically bring awareness to them in the financial, in their financial behavior. So when we add these two components, what we provide them is some insight to change financial behavior. Because what we have found are two interesting things, and this was confirmed through the Financial National Literacy Conference that happened just a few weeks in Montreal. It's now accepted that financial literacy as knowledge, just knowledge and theoretical elements do not help to change behavior. And the other finding is that people change their behavior, firstly, when they go through an experiential situation that helps them to not only understand from where that behavior is coming, but also seeing the benefit of that change, because otherwise they are simply not going to feel motivated to change. So what is the coaching process that we follow? If we go to the next slide, you will see that our coaching process basically is through a demographic survey and a questionnaire that clients need to fill out that will basically tell us two things: what are their presenting issues, and what are the goals that we want, or that they want to achieve in this case. So once we have those two elements in place, what they want, what they need, and what they would like to look as the outcome of this process, basically we do an assessment. And that assessment is, I believe, the most relevant part of the coaching process. And it's the model that we follow does two types of different assessments. One that is a financial assessment through a budget and a balance sheet that we do with them, but also through a behavioral assessment, which is a money styles assessment that gives them the opportunity to reflect a little bit about their behavior. After that, we set up tasks for participants where the whats, the whens, the hows are very clear, specified, and also we set up tasks for ourselves as mentors. If referrals are needed, we provide it at that time. Now, let's talk about the financial assessment, which again is, we believe that needs to be experiential, so that really they learn about it. If we can go to the next slide, you will see that the financial assessment is based in filling out with them in the first session a first draft of a balance sheet and a budget. Of course, first a budget, a balance sheet, explain them the differences, see how are they related, and then leave them with the methodology for them to fine-tune it and discuss it in the second session. We set up goals, action plans, tasks, etc. Possible roadblocks are mentioned at that time, and of course explored in the second session. And we talk about questions, referrals, goal settings, etc., and achievements in the third session. That is the financial part. So if we go to the behavioral element of this, in the next slide, you will see that what we assess in the first session, we give them a questionnaire that helps them to identify, well, first of all, that tells them what are the different styles that people have in managing their money, okay? So we give them a handout that outlines these styles, that we explain them to them, and then in the second session, there's a questionnaire in that handout where they are able to identify what are their 3 predominant styles. And in the second sessions, we start doing analysis of those predominant styles and the emotions and thoughts that drive those styles. And of course, we talk about the opportunities and the risks that the combination of their styles can bring, because there are people that have very balanced combinations, but there are other people that have a combination or a cocktail, as we call it, that not necessarily works in their best interests, right? And then we explore in the second and the third session possible ways to change that behavior or decrease the risks, and what will be, of course, as I mentioned before, the benefits from those changes. In the next slide, you will see briefly what are those styles. For them, it's very, very easy. For all of us, it's very easy to see the style, because these styles speak about the behavior that we have towards money. And sometimes, you know, it's protected. Sometimes it's make sure that we don't make bad decisions. Sometimes it's just to spend it and have fun. Sometimes people are like idealists, angry with money or stars, but they really want to show that money or the money they have, because they believe that by that way they will be accepted, loved, and respected, right? We explore also how innocents could put themselves in danger by believing that, you know, the flow of life or nature is going to take care of all the financial problems, which doesn't happen, etc. So once people have an idea, and they identify immediately with these styles. I mean, they say, yes, I am this, I am this. So what we tell them is, okay, now let's go further and tap into the emotions and the thoughts, the possible thoughts that are driving these styles. And we do that precisely by some self-reflection queries that are mentioned in the next slide, which will help them, as I mentioned before, to identify their styles and what are these fears, these thoughts that drive those styles and that behavior, and ask themselves why that happens. So I will share with you some of the successes in the next slide that we have attained thus far, and by following this model. And of course, first of all, there's improvement in knowledge, both on the self, on their selves and their financial habits, and of course, financial knowledge to do a budget and a balance sheet. We definitively, as Danny mentioned before, we instill a sense of empowerment for them to see the possibility that they can change that. Because without having that hope, they won't be able either to pay their debts or the stressors that they are facing, which could be spending less or start building assets. So the hope and the sense of empowerment, we believe that it's a key element of our success. This has helped us to promote our program through word of mouth. We see in our clients improvement in savings, decreased consumerism, better, a more effective modeling behavior towards finances with their children, and many times even reduce differences between partners. Money brings a lot of animosity in new and couples that have been together for a while. What are the challenges that we have found throughout our journey? So as you can see in the next slide, the biggest challenge that we have found is the belief system, right? Belief systems that are pretty entrenched in the mind of our clients, well, if I not have enough money, how it's possible that I can? What is the use of doing the budget? What's the use of planning? And when they understand that it's precisely when there's not enough is when we need to plan, they start seeing things from a different perspective. So this model helps in a gentle fashion for clients to challenge their belief systems that many times are not necessarily accurate or correct. Sometimes the fear, what we find that really holds clients to make a change. Many times they are not ready to do that. Having 3 sessions as our limit, sometimes this could be a little bit challenging, but it's a matter of really using a very effective use of that time. Sometimes different values based on cultural backgrounds can get in the way, financial or health limitations, language barriers sometimes. And this model definitely entails sometimes a little bit of extensive follow-up and occasional drop out. The results that we have achieved thus far, and I will share that in the next slide, is we have, in the last couple of years, we have coached 175 clients through 190 hours of service. We have partnered with 12 organizations who are referring clients for financial coaching. And we have specifically trained, and sorry, let me rephrase this. We have trained the trainers with 2 partner organizations to help them do this in the way we do it, and find their own methods and process that work for them. And we have served through our employment assistance program also 340 clients in this last 3 years. We would like to share with you some tips for those who want to get started in this model. And in the next 2 slides, you will see that a very effective way of doing this is by developing partnerships with organizations who are committed to do this service. it's critical to as Sheri mentioned, it's critical to understand what are the real needs of the clients, because sometimes they don't know that, or sometimes they are mixed about what those real needs are. The most important thing is, as I mentioned before, use an experiential model that helps them to do exercises where they really feel what is doing the budget, how that feels for them, what are the roadblocks that can happen there. And of course, the budget is the most powerful tool, because by doing that themselves, with our help, they not only find where their money goes, but empower them to decide where the money should go. So this decision ability empowers them, right? And of course, with the behavioral assessment, we invite them to reflect upon how they manage their money. And that is helpful, right? It's important to assess those styles and show the benefits and the risks of those. In the next slide, something that we found that is very helpful is to give enough space between meetings to allow them to complete both the financial and the behavioral assessments. And we recommend strongly also to avoid meeting until the tasks and the goals that we have set in each one of the sessions are completed, right? It's important to develop a system that tracks the sessions, the time used, what are the issues, goals, etc., and the commitments and referrals, so that we ensure that there's continuity within the process. Something that helps a lot is explaining them clearly what will be the benefits if they change, because once they see that, they feel engaged to do it, and that reduces their fears, right? And I believe that the very core of this is empowering our clients, empowering them to see what are their strengths, because everyone has those strengths, and keeping themselves connected to those. So having said that, I thank you so much for your time, and we would love to hear your questions.
Thank you so much, Jose. That was just such a wonderful synopsis. I really like the way you're speaking about the behavioral styles alongside the financial concerns. That's a really unique piece to add to this. While we give a bit of time to let people's questions come in, and we do have about 15 minutes for Q&A, which is wonderful. Jose, I wonder if I could ask you a little bit more about those behavioral styles. It's a wonderful chart that you had there, listing the ones that you look for. Do you find that clients often have more than one behavioral style?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for the question. If you can return to the slide, I think that will be very good for people. Just to see it, just to have it in front, because what I have found is when people see this, just when people the template that they fill out, the assessment that we do is a little bit more extensive, but when people see those styles, immediately they identify themselves with not only one, but more. And what research, this is based in extensive research that has done mostly in the United States, but what research shows is that people have a little bit of all these styles, but predominantly 3 of them. Now, three, and just by people knowing what are those 3 styles and the combination and how risky that is, how dangerous, that gives them awareness. Because imagine when we have a pleasure seeker, a star, and an innocent dealing with money, well, that's a bomb in their hands, because what they are is looking for fun, liking to look good so that they are accepted, but at the same time they think, well, everything will pan out well. When they see this combination, they really start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm aware and I need to do something about it.
Okay. And do you find that that sort of has a, like, do you think like there's some curiosity about the kinds of negative thoughts that could come attached to these kinds of styles? Does that come into your sort of approach in the coaching?
100%, 100%. I didn't include on the slide here, but I call it the good news. And it's an iceberg, actually. And that iceberg shows the clients. I didn't include it because I know that I will not have time to do it. But now that you're asking, that slide tells them, you see, what we see from our behavior towards money is just the behavior, but there are thoughts and emotions driving that. What do you think that it's driving this? And they say, well, definitively emotions is the main driver, because I feel stressed, or I feel ashamed, or I feel fearful. I feel many things, right? So when we tell them, look, in reality, what is driving the entire show is, or are, the thoughts that you have about these feelings. Just reveal the thoughts that are driving these feelings. And they say, well, explain that to me, for example. So, for example, in a star, when a star is overspending money, clothes, etc., and she or he is asked to reduce the budget or on that specific item, or reduce it, they feel stressed, they feel panicked, and when they make the connection that perhaps this feeling that they are experiencing of stress or shame is coming from the thought of, in order that people will accept me and love me, I need to look great, I need to glow. They understand that the issue is not the money. The issue is not a possible, but in this case, self-esteem that is driving that behavior. So working with them on that and encouraging them that they are okay the way they are, that they don't need to go the extra mile to impress others. They get awareness. Does that make sense? And that awareness elicits change.
That is really helpful. Thank you so much for giving us more on that one, Jose. We had a couple questions come in about the styles, so thank you. Thank you very much for giving us more on that one. I think it's really fascinating, and I think that's one that's going to really stick with folks from your presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. No, thanks to you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sheri, we had a question about your program, because you mentioned that, talking with clients about money and financial coaching can have both risks as well as benefits. Wondering if you could maybe speak to a little bit more about the risks.
Well, that's an interesting one. So we know that at any point in time when you're talking sort of about behavior and past behavior, I kind of going to what Jose is talking about a little bit. There's risks. There's risks in kind of, if you're already feeling stressed and anxious about what you've done with your money or what situation you're in, talking about it initially can elevate that feeling of risk. We're also asking people to make change through this process, and making change, we know, is very difficult for people. Mm-hmm. So those are sort of two of the key areas. We also, it's patterns of behavior and it's habits and changing habits, right? There's lots of literature, how many times it takes to undo an old habit. So as people start to kind of reveal what their past has been, what their past activities have been, what their past spending habits have been, they have to think differently. And that's often a challenge. Mm-hmm. When we're working one-on-one, we need to allow the time for some of those things to happen and some of that processing to happen.
That's really great. Thank you. Thank you for telling us more about that one. I think what you're getting into there is that there are some unknowns when you start this process with clients.
Mm-hmm. But similar to what Jose is saying, it then becomes really talking to what the benefits are, right?
Right. Thank you. Danny, we had a question come in for you about the training that you received as a coach coming in. Can you say a little bit more about what kinds of like what was in the training, and maybe anything you learned about, you know, keeping your role in that sort of volunteer hat as opposed to the financial planner hat that you're coming from.
Sure. So Prosper Canada put together a half-day or a full-day training program, sorry, and part of it was to go over expectations of us as coaches. So, you know, clearly define what the parameters were for the program, some of the objectives, what they wanted to achieve, and then we went through case studies, which I think was the biggest thing. I think I found the case studies that they had us go through were probably the best way to introduce us to, you know, kind of those expectations. And it was interesting that, you know, and you're talking about the two hats, right? So it was interesting because, as again, my background in social services, as I went through the different case studies and read each one, you know, my initial perspective was, wow, look at some of these barriers that these people have, you know, in front of them, right? And look where they came from and some of the things they're dealing with on an emotional and personal level. Some of the other financial planners in there who probably hadn't had the same background are looking at things going, oh, if we consolidate debt here, and if we do this there, and if we can budget them and we can get them, and I was overhearing them, and I was going, you got to kind of get through some of the other stuff before, you know, you look at things like consolidation of debt. And again, we're dealing with, you know, clients who potentially can't do that. So you have to approach it a different way, right? So, so I found that the case studies, you know, really opened a lot of financial advisors' eyes. And of course, taking that up with Prosper Canada and you know, kind of talking about it as a group, prepared us for, again, you know, clients and you know, where they're coming from and what they might be experiencing in their life at this moment, right? Just before we get there. So, so I think, yeah, that training and especially the case studies was very important because, of course, Prosper Canada and some of these, you know, organizations such as Sheri's and Jose's have more experience with these type of clients, right? So they're bringing that experience to us.
That's great, and actually that segues pretty well into the next question for Sheri. Question about because you mentioned your credit counseling background, and do you find that comes into play with different kinds of clients? How, like, are there folks who really specifically need the typical credit counseling, like with managing a lot of debt, or is your client support more in the open-ended, it could be different kinds of coaching goals?
We really are seeing the broad spectrum. So we're really seeing people who are you know, struggling because they're really living on a very low and a fixed income, limited opportunity to enhance that income. And so they're challenged just to meet day-to-day living expenses. And we're providing resources, strategies in that area. But we're also seeing people who, you know, life's become very expensive for a lot of people. And so they are people with incomes and debt challenges. And so we are navigating that. We continue to run a credit counseling program, which is about people learning credit products, navigating how to repay their debt, and debt management programs. We do those frequently. But it all still comes down to that initial assessment and the ability of them to do a budget that helps influence their day-to-day spending. And we find that was always the real barrier, that budget piece, right? People were very afraid of what a budget might do to them and what that might mean. And we try to teach people it's really about control. They resume control of their money by doing a budget. It's not that a budget controls them. And so all ends of that spectrum, that becomes applicable.
Thank you. And actually that also works very well into another one of the questions we had. And I wonder, maybe this is our last question, maybe Jose, if you wanted to offer a quick answer. How are you able to offer support on budgeting for such a small number of sessions? So if someone only comes for 2 or 3 sessions, are you able to really see progress with someone's budgeting?
Oh, fantastic question. Thank you. Absolutely. We have developed a model that in the first session, we do the budget with the clients. We do the budget, and not only the budget, the balance sheet is very important because the budget tells them where the money goes. And many times they don't even think about what are line items like presents, entertainment, several things reserved for taxes if they are self-employed, many different things, travel, etc. Many times they are not even aware of what are those expenses. So by doing the budget, either they see the need of thinking about that and plan, or sometimes even they find, wow, there's a possibility that there's enough about it. So yes, we do that in the first session. There's enough time to do the budget, the balance sheet, and to get a little bit of information about their background, which is basically, it's a very simple question. How was the financial situation when you were growing up? Because many times clients say, well, you know, my parents were horrible, they were stingy, they didn't give us one penny. And some clients towards that behavior say, wow, my parents are frugal, I want to be like them. But other clients say, well, you know, something that's horrible, I don't want to be like them, I want to have fun, I want to spend. But answering those questions in the first session, so it's extremely helpful because they walk away with a budget. It's a draft, but they have to refine it. They have to go through the experience, and they have the other tool that is going to reflect, to help them to reflect about how they are distributing their money and why they are so much in debt or why they are so overspending. So, and we do it with them. We do that budget with them in a template that we already have, and the balance sheet both. So yes, it gives enough time in the first session. In the second, we review it.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much, Jose. And thank you to all of our panelists and to all of our listeners. I wish we had, you know, another hour and a half we could keep talking because the questions and everything have just been really wonderful to get into it further. I'm just going to have a couple quick notes here before we sign off. I want to point out a new resource we have at Prosper Canada where you can access a few worksheets on different money topics. And these are really ideal for facilitated conversations or workshops or even a financial coaching session. You can find these under our financial literacy facilitator resources, the individual PDFs, or you can let us know if you'd like to order print copies and booklets. Those are also available. Please do keep in touch. Please subscribe to our newsletter. We'll be happy to let you know about more opportunities like this webinar. We have more coming up all the time. If you'd like anything else to do with this webinar or other resources that our panelists may have mentioned, please let me know. There's my contact information. And most importantly, I want to thank our panelists and everyone listening for spending your time with us today. We know your time is valuable, and we're very grateful to have shared some of it with you today. So I'm going to sign off from everyone here at Prosper Canada. Thank you very much, and we hope you have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.